Amanda Polt goes to Missouri State University. She's a junior who lives here, in this home built in the 1920s. She moved in last summer, and it wasn't long before she and her roommates started feeling sick.
One of my roommates over the summer, she lived in our back bedroom, and she started noticing before she went to bed that she would have really bad headaches. And that's weird for her, like she's never really had headaches before.
A call to city utilities led to this discovery. A faulty furnace. Dangerous carbon monoxide gas was leaking.
City utilities red flagged our house.
It could have been much worse. Home inspectors discovered Amanda's landlord tried to duct tape this valve. And any self-respecting home inspector knows a carbon monoxide leak is not a do-it-yourself project.
I will not be corrected by just taping it. It's being caused by a cracked heat exchanger, the exhaust getting into the delivery. So you need to have an HVAC guy come out there.
There are other safety concerns when living in an older home. The effects of potential mold and asbestos need to be considered. Bottom line, don't just let it go.
Walk into a house and you smell mold, it smells musty, you got a problem. Asbestos itself is not a horrible problem. It's when it gets in the air. It's what they call friable. The little particles get in the air and you breathe it for long periods of time.
The key? Was your home built before 1950? If it was, a professional home inspector is money well spent. They'll inspect your house for hazards that could be dangerous or even deadly. In Springfield, Missouri, I'm Bryant Clerkley, Ozarks News Journal. Springfield, Missouri is really lacking in diversity, and this is not an issue that most Missouri State students or Springfield residents have to face, since the city's population stands at more than 86% Caucasian. I sat down and spoke to Lola Butcher, the education chair of the Springfield NAACP, about the culture shock someone could face their first time in Springfield.
I think that most white people, I feel confident about this, I think most white people that live in Springfield really wish that we had a more diverse community.
Butcher understands that many minority students leave Springfield after graduation for reasons outside of their control.
It seemed very strange. It was a little unsettling to realize how segregated the Springfield community is, and also how few people of color actually live here.
Assistant Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion Juan Meraz is also working with the city to keep minority students inside Springfield after graduation to provide a diversified business sector.
Predominantly Hispanic or Latino students and African American students and Asian students are the new target market for recruitment in general.
Hanin Abaseyemu is a Saudi Arabian student here at Missouri State University that's in charge of a women's group responsible for helping female students from the Middle East feel more comfortable in Springfield.
We always try to hold events to them to celebrate their traditional culture. Life here is really easy.
With programs like the one Hanin runs for female students from the Middle East, the transition into Springfield might be a little easier, and the chances of these foreign students remaining in town after graduation is much greater. In Springfield, Missouri, I'm Bryant Clerkley with Ozarks News Journal.
And how long have you been chasing tornadoes?
Well, Brian, I've been chasing tornadoes about 10 years. I decided that the technology was right and the time was right, so I decided, I'm going to go out and chase storms back in 2004, and that actually worked out really well because for 3 weekends in a row I saw tornadoes 3 times in a row, which for a rookie storm chaser was pretty good.
And what states did you chase tornadoes in?
Yeah, you would think it would be, the first answer would be Oklahoma and Kansas, but on those first chases I actually went as far as Nebraska.
Wow.
And saw a pretty good tornado. And then the last time 10 years ago I went to Kansas, and one thunderstorm produced multiple tornadoes, and again for a rookie my jaw was just open, my mouth was just wide open, just like, wow, I should hang it up after this. It's not going to get any better.
And what states have the strongest tornadoes that you've discovered?
Well, now, strong tornadoes, the EF4s and 5s, when you look at that, they can actually occur almost up to Canada, all the way down to the Gulf Coast, into the east. They stop at the Rockies usually for the very strongest tornadoes. But if you talk about tornado frequency, if you look at the entire planet, Oklahoma owns it. There is no place in the world where the tornadoes are more frequent than Oklahoma, with Texas, Kansas, even parts of Nebraska a very close second.
And is there a difference between Midwestern tornadoes and Southern tornadoes with the time that they occur?
Yeah, and there's been some appreciation lately for how severe southern tornado outbreaks can be. The thing about a southern tornado outbreak, and what we're talking about there is, Mississippi, Alabama, even Florida, maybe Georgia, is that those thunderstorms that produce the tornadoes there are not necessarily driven by the heat of the day like you might think. They're pretty much a 24/7 operation. So a lot of the horrific tornadoes that have occurred there can happen at daybreak, for instance, different times of day, overnight, and so that's what makes those tornadoes kind of insidious in some ways. People are not necessarily ready for it at those times.
And if someone wanted to get into storm chasing, how would they do that? A regular civilian?
That's right. And when I go out and storm chase, it's kind of funny because we see a lot of chasers out there now, and with the technology like this, a smartphone, it's very easy to get a radar picture. It's portable. You don't have to have a lot of equipment anymore. But the problem is a lot of people who never thought about chasing before will just wake up one day, see a tornado warning, and then get in their car and go. Well, if you can imagine hundreds of people doing that, then the storm chasing field gets kind of crowded. And even from 10 years ago, I remember just a few guys getting in the way, making crazy U-turns. Now you go out, and I know some very well-known storm chasers who actually will avoid the big storm because they don't want to deal with the people anymore. Wow. So my advice would be, if you're thinking about doing it, I wouldn't approach it in a casual way, even though it seems tempting to do that, because there are some things you need to know about how thunderstorms develop that may get you in trouble out in the field.
And what is the scariest situation that you've ever encountered when chasing these tornadoes?
Well, Bryant, this might surprise you, and people ask me this all the time. They say, are you afraid of the tornado? Are you scared during that? And I have to say, never.